In this lesson, we're gonna learn how we can handle React Native image and how to handle images in React Native. That's a new app. Let's create a functional component, import React from React, import view and text from React Native, export default function app and let's return a view, and inside this view let's return a text called hello. Look, hello is here, but it's at the top at the left here because in iOS there is no SafeAreaView. So let's center it. Just give this view some styling. Style Felix of 1, Felix to fill all the screen, and justify content, center, and align our items to center as well. Look, our text has been centered. Don't worry if you are not understand what I've just typed, because we're gonna describe all of this later. We're gonna describe the text, the view, and those styling. But today we're gonna talk about images. So first of all, let's download that assets file that I provided in this video. We have here 3 images and add them inside our app. Let's create a folder called src and add inside it folder called images, and add those 3 images to that folder. Okay, those are the images that we're gonna import inside our app right now. Okay, let's import image number 1. To use image in React Native, we just type image and import it from React Native. If you notice, I have here auto importing. When I'm type a component, it will be automatically imported at the top. So you have to make sure that you imported the image component from React Native. Let's give it his source. Source take a require function. That is the source of the image. Where's our images? Images inside a folder called src, and inside this folder there is another folder called images. So src will require dot, that mean the same path. We here in the app.tsx, and the src is the same path. So we have just to add one dot here to tell the compiler that we are in the same path, the app.tsx and image. Now src, inside src folder called images, let's open it. Inside this images folder there are let's start with our first image, fod.png. Look, we have imported our image, but now let's give our images our image some styling. Okay, let's give it some styling. First of all, we want to handle his height and width. Let's give it a height of, for example, 100 and width of 100 pixels. Look, but I think if you notice, the image has been cut. So we have here a resize mode property. We can make it the center, to be at the center of the screen. We can make it contain. It's like the center, the view contain it. We can make it cover, it will cover, the whole view, I mean the 100 and 100 pixels, but it will be cut too. We can make it repeat. Look, if we make it repeat, it will repeat itself to fill the 100 dimensions. We can make it stretch to, it will stretch itself. Okay, let's make it center. Okay, let's give her a border width of 4, for example. We can change his border color with using this property, border color. Let's make it red. Look, if we change it, his border color, we can give her a border radius of 10. Look, and here's Android 2. We can let's use another image. Let's try with another image. Let's import our image component and give him the source. So the source will be required. We're gonna open src file, src. Inside src folder, we have images folder, and inside images folder, we have here image called user.png. This image, user.png. Wow, let's give it some styling. Let's copy those styling. Oh, and let's make her size mode as a center. Let's give her some margin. I want to add space from this image to the top. So I have to give her margin top of 20, for example, to have this space between those two images. Let's make his resize mode a contain. We have here a property. I want to change the color of this icon. It's black. I want to make it red. So we have a style property called tint color. Let's make it, for example, red. Look, the image has been red. We can make it blue. We can make it orange, as we see, as we want. Now let's try the last one. I want you to pause the video and try it. I want you to render this image here, down here. I want to render it. Now, I hope you could do this small task. We will add the image and we'll give it the source, and it will be required. Let's open src folder. Inside images folder called Sawi. Here's a trick. The image here is BNG, and BNG is extension. That's the user and food. But Sawi images here, it's a JPEG. So we shouldn't type BNG, but we should type JPEG. Okay, let's give it some styling. Let's give it the style height and width of 100. Let's give it margin bottom, margin top, and let's give it border radius. What if you want to make an image round? Just give her the border radius of the half of the height and width. For example, that's 100. The half equals to 50. So we just add a border radius of 50. Look, it's been like a circle. That's for today. Don't worry if you not understand something like justify content and align items. We're gonna describe this in another videos when we describe the view, and we're gonna also describe the text components. We're gonna describe all the React Native components and how to build amazing screens using UI, using React Native components. So please don't forget to subscribe and and hit the bell button, and don't forget also the like button. And thanks for watching. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to use URL images. Like this image here, we have here a image URL, and I wanna use it without the source of it. I don't want to add all of the images inside my project. So how to render an image with its URL. And we're gonna talk also about the blur. We want to make this image blurred or something. How to do this? That's what we're gonna talk about in this lesson. First, if I want to add an image from URL, look at this source. We just delete this delete this, and add an object. Inside this object, we have a property called URI. And let's put URI, it's a string of our URL. So all what we need to copy this URL and put it here and save. Look, the image is here. Let's increase the width and height of it to 200, or let's make it 300. Yes. So we can see the image. And here in Android too. That's Android, that's iOS. Let's try one more image. We have here a second image. Let's copy its URL and put it here. And save. Tint color, let's remove this tint color. Great, and let's make it bigger. For example, 300. Great, isn't it? That's the height and the width of it, 300. Now I want to make it blurred. We have here a property called blur radius, and let's give it blurred. If we just type 10, it's blurred, as you see. If we make it 4, every time you increase this number, you make it blurrer than before. Okay? That's the blur radius of it. Let's make it, for example, 3 here. Great, isn't it? Hello heroes, and welcome to HeroDev YouTube channel. Today we're gonna learn how to customize texts in React Native, how to style them, how to use their properties, and some tips and tricks. Now let's try to add a text, for example, title, and let's style it. Let's give him styling. Let's open a new object. Let's give him just font size. Font size is the size of the font. For example, let's make it 30. Look, now our title become 30. Let's make it in the center. We have a property called text align. We can make it at the right. Look, it become at the right. We can make it at the left. Okay, we can make it in the center. We can add to him color, for example, color. Oops. Of red, maybe blue. Maybe we can use another color from Hex Colors. I want to show you. We have here a website called React Colors. We can pick any color that we want. For example, that color. Let's copy that hex and add it here. Look, that's the color. Let's make it black. We can give him a font weight also. Font weight. We can make it 400. We can make it 100. Look, it becomes thinner. we can make it bold because it's the title. We can make it bold. Now let's add a new text, and let's call it subtitle, title, and let's give him some styling. For example, let's make it at the center, text align, center as well. Let's give him a font size of 16. Let's give him a gray color. Now let's learn how to use nested text. For example, if you want to make something like, if you don't have an account, please subscribe or please sign up. Let's make it. Let's add a text and add hello to HeroDev YouTube channel. And let's add inside this text another text. But first, let's give them this text some styling first. This styling will be font weight, will be bold, and let's give him margin top. I described margin before. I want to make space from this text and the top, so let's make a margin top of 20. So now we have a space of 20 pixels, and let's give him text. Let's use this nested text. Let's add a text inside another text, and let's type in this text, please subscribe. Now we want to make please subscribe a pressable. I want to press on it, and I want to make it underline under this please subscribe, and make it change his color. Now let's give him some styling to do this. We have here a property called text decoration line, and let's make it, we can make it line through, we can make it underline, look, and we can make it underline and line through. But now in our example, we want to make it just underline, and it changes color to be, for example, red. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. If you notice here, this text, please subscribe, took all the styles of his parent text, font weight, bold, and margin top 20. But he's not taking this color of black. Why? Because we give him a color of red. Now we have a great property called onPress. Let's add it here. If you want to make something when the user press on your text, for example, we want to make an alert, and let's call it subscribed. When we press on this text, we've got an alert called subscribe. Look, that's in Android, that's in iOS. Because we have here onPress function, and that's a property. We can use it when we want to make the text pressable, to do something when we press a text. Now our last example, what if we have a big text? For example, we have here a text. Let's call it lorem. Lorem, we use this to generate a tool text. Now we have here a big text. We want to make it justified. So we have to give him some styling and give him text align of justified. Look, our text looks better than before. What if we want to add spaces or new lines? For example, I want to add a line after this image word. So what we have to do is to open an object and add this string. When we save pressed, we have here a line. If you want to make it 2 lines, just repeat it. Now it's 2 lines. If you want to, for example, to put a new line after Maxime, just use this. Look, we have here where the line. Oh, sorry. We have to use this. Here is a new line after Maxime. We can double it. 2 lines after Maxime. Now let's remove this. The last property I wanna use here is how to control the number of lines. For example, I want to only show that big text has a lot of words. I want to show only 3 lines or 6 lines. You have to use this property, number of lines, and make it 6. Now we have here display only 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can make it 4. Now those only 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lines. Because this video got taller, I wanna to subscribe how to add custom fonts in React Native. So this video is very tall, so I'm gonna make it in the next video. So don't forget to subscribe and to subscribe to this playlist, because I'm gonna teach you how to use all core components of React Native. Thanks for your watching. Don't forget to subscribe. In this lesson, we're gonna learn what is the difference between margin and padding in React Native. Imagine that we have here a view with those style. Let's give him background color of red and height of 100 or 200 pixels and width of 200 pixels. Look at this view. I want to make a space between this view with this view and this image. We can use the margin. Margin refers to the outside space, the space outside of the element. For example, I want this image to have a space at the top, so you just type margin top of 20, for example. That's a solution. You can also give that view a margin button. Look, margin button of 20. Look, it's the same scenario. I would like to mention, when I comment that line, it will be like deleted. When I make it like this with those two marks, this comment, the compiler can't see it because it's a comment, not a code. Look, just add those. It doesn't exist anymore, that code, okay? You can also use a margin right and margin left. Margin right, for example, 20, or margin left of 20. Look, margin left, we have a space here, margin right, if we want to add a space here, okay? Now, let's describe the padding. Imagine that we have a view inside this view. Let's have another view, and let's give it some styling. Background color, blue, and height 100, width of 100. Look, we have this blue view here. We can give her margin left of 20. Look, now we have a space here of 20 because we give this blue view a margin left of 20. We can use the padding. The padding is to make a space inside the element itself. For example, we have this red view. I want to have a space at the top, for example, 50. So we can use padding top of 50. Look, we have a space here at the top. We can also have padding left of 50. Look, we have here a padding of 50 here and padding of 50 right here, because we have padding top and padding left. Okay, we can delete this and add a padding for the all sides. Look, padding of, for example, 20. This code, padding 20, means that we have in this view internal space at the top, at the right, at the bottom, at the left. Okay, because the padding refers to all areas. And let's give this here margin 2, and the margin, if we type here margin and give it 20, it is the same scenario, because this view has a margin for the all sides, top, right, down, and left. So if you are using padding only, padding margin, padding means all sides, margin all sides, but that's internal and that's external. All sides inside the elements, all sides outside of the element. So in summary, we won't like to say the main difference between padding and margin is that margin creates space outside the border of an element, outside, like this image has a margin top, this space, and padding creates space inside or within the element, separating the content from the border inside this element, like this view, red view, has a padding here and here, so it makes like this. So that's the difference between padding and margin. And you have to know that we has a margin top, right, left, and bottom. Top at the top, bottom at the bottom, right at the right, to the right, left to the left. Okay, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for videos like this, because we're gonna talk about more and more about React Native for absolute beginners. Thank you. Thanks for watching. In this lesson, we're gonna talk about views and how to show content in our screen. That's one of the most important lessons, because we're gonna talk about views and styling, and views are the containers of other components like texts, inputs, images, and other. Okay, so let's create here a view. How to set a width and height of view. Just give him a style property and give him height of 100 pixels and width of 100 pixels too. Now we cannot see any views here, because we didn't provide it a background color. Let's give him background color of red. Now we have here a view with 100 pixels of height and 100 pixels of width. We can increase its width to 200, for example. We can increase its height to make it 150, as you see. Now, what if we want to make a view that fill all the screen? That's pretty simple. We can give him the styling of height of 100% and width of 100% and background color blue. If you see here, we have this view with 100%. That means 100 of the entire screen. and width, the 100 of the screen width, 100%, we can make it 50. Look, it fill all the half of the screen. We can make it 25, the quarter of the height of the screen. We can make it 75% of the height of the screen. We can remove this and give him a Felix of 1. But I will remove Felix of 1 now because I have a lesson to describe Flexbox later. And Flexbox, it's the CSS module that provides a more efficient way to lay out. Don't worry about that Felix 1 because I have another lesson. We're gonna talk about Felix and about the Felix and how to use it, how to use Flexbox. And Flexbox is a CSS module that provides a more efficient way to lay out. Okay, let's return it back as 100% of the height and 100% of the width to make it fill all the screen. What if I want to make this view in the center? We have another property called justify content in the center. Justify content allow us to control the vertical of the screen. For example, if we put this center, it will make this view at the center here. Look. Settings. Let's format and save. Let's remove this because I don't want to get you confused. I just was allowing an auto save, auto format and save. If we enable this, when I press save, it format our code. So I disable it because I don't want to get you confused. What if we want to center this but horizontally, not vertically? We have a property called align items. Make it in the center. Now we created a view that contains a view that make it in the center. Okay, what if we want to put anything inside this red view? We have to remove this tag and make it acceptable to add something. So we can open this view and add a text and add any text. Look, we can add also another view and add padding and margin to it. For example, we have to style height of 100, for example 50, and width of 50, and background color of white. We can make it margin top of 20. Now we have a space of 20 pixels here. We can add, for example, we can add padding to this view, padding left of 20. Look, this view has a padding left of 20, so it has a space inside space. If you don't understand what is the difference between padding and margin, we've described that before in previous lessons, so check that lesson in this playlist. Don't worry. We can give it a whole padding of 20, okay? I don't want you to get confused about React Native views because we didn't complete our lessons yet. We're gonna describe it more and more, so don't worry about it, and don't forget to subscribe and watch other videos about views, and see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we're gonna talk about Flexbox. Felix will define how your items are going to fill over the available space along your main axis. Space will be divided according to each elements of Felix property. We have here a blue view here that fill all the screen. It fills all the screen because we give it a height of 100% and width of 100% of the entire screen. If we give it, for example, 50, it will fill only the half of the screen. Now, what if I want to use Felix to make this fill all the screen? We just add Felix of 1. and it will fill all the screen or any number that you want, because we don't have any view but this. Now let's try to add another view. Let's try to add a view with a style, background color, red, and Felix of 1. What do you think what's gonna happen? I'm gonna tell you. The all view, we give it a Felix of 1, so it will take all the space of this view. So all this screen is gonna be red. Look. What if we add another view with a style, background color of, for example, yellow, and give it a Felix of 1. Now we divided our screen between those, because this has a 1 and this has Felix 1. So we divided at them both. If we put here 2, this will take the double of this view. Look. Now this red view has the double of this yellow view. If we have here 3, it will be triple. This takes 7500% of the screen, and this only takes 2500% of the screen. Okay, that's our Felix. Let's remove this view and let's add a view that contain three views with style, background color, aqua, height of 50 and width of 52. Let's double this view and make it red, green. Let's make them 100. To see, let's remove this blue. I want to teach you something called Felix direction. Look, Felix direction, we have 4 main property. We can make it style, we can make it column, and that's the default value. We can make it column, that's the default value. The aqua is number 1, number 2 is red, number 3 is green. We can make it column reverse. Look what's happening. The aqua became number 3, then the red, then the green. The green now is number 1. We can make it row. Look, we have the aqua here, after this the red one, after this the green one. We can make it row reverse. Look, we have here at the right. If we give this a Felix of 1 and give it column reverse, it should be at the bottom here. So you have to know those 4 properties, and those 4 properties are column, that's the default value, column reverse, row reverse, because those are important things about Felix. And in the next lesson, we're gonna talk about how to justify content and align items using row direction, because in the column direction is different to row direction. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to use justify content and align items when the Felix direction is row. Let's have a quick recap about justify content and align items first. Justify content. It's a style property, allow us to make many things. The default value is Felix start, and it's make our elements at the top, at the left top of the screen. That's Felix start, and that is the default value. We have here a center. It makes it in the center of the screen. We have another property called Felix end. It make it at the end of the screen. What if we want to make a space between them? We have a property called space between. it makes a space between our elements and the first element and the last element at the first position and the last position. We have here a space around, space around. Space around allow us to create spaces between our elements and a space between the first element and the last element. There is also the last one is space eventually. Space eventually, it makes the space at the first and the bottom equals to the space between our elements. So if this is space 100 pixels, this will be 100, 100, 100. That's space eventually. Okay, that's justify content. Let's describe align items. The default value is Felix start. And align items allow us to control the layout horizontally, not vertically. So we have here first Felix start, that's the default value. It makes our view at the top left. We have here Felix end. It makes it at the right. So Felix end makes it at the end of the screen. We have another property called center to make it at the center of the screen. Now, what if we want to make this at the center vertically and the center horizontally? So let's add a justify content at the center. Great, isn't it? But there's an important note you have to know. If we just make this Felix direction row, we will reverse all of those things. What do you mean? The justify content was centering vertically. Now he's gonna center horizontally, not vertically. And the align items will center vertically, not horizontally. Let's try. What if we remove this align items? If we remove align items, look, align items was centering horizontally. Now it's centering vertically. And justify content, if we put justify content at Felix end, it will go to the right, not to the bottom. If we want to make it to the bottom, just add align items, Felix end. Look, so you have to know this important note. Well, when Felix direction is row, you have to know that the main axis now is horizontally, not vertically. So the justify content control the vertically, not horizontally. Okay, so if we want to make it the center, we need to use align items, not justify content. Okay, and here in justify content, we make our spaces like space around, space between, and so on. I want to talk about another property, style property called align self. Let's remove those two views and only leave this one. Let's remove this Felix direction of row. Now, let's make this justify content at the center to center this view. Now, what if I want to make this view to the right? We can use align self to Felix end. Now it's to the right, we can make it Felix start. To the left, we can make it in the center. If we remove those, now it's the center, it's in the center. Let's remove that. Now it's in the center. You have to know that align items and justify content make the container view control his child. If you want the child to control himself, you can use this property, align self, to make it at the center, to the right, to the left, at the end, at the top. Thanks for your watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, because we're continuing to talk more about views and how to style them, how to use this layout, and so don't forget, subscribe and hit the like button. React Native view styling. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to style a view in React Native. We have here a view with background color, blue, and height and width of 100 pixels. Let's give him a border radius. There is a property called border radius if we want to make this borders around. For example, we can give it 10. Look, we can give it 20. Look. We can, if we want to make it a circle, we have to give it the half of his height and width. For example, let's give it 50. Now we have here a circle. We can give her a border color of, for example, black. But now we didn't see any things because we need to give it a border width. Border width of 1 or 5. Look, we have a black border width of 5. Let's make it 1 and make it the background of this view white. Now we have here a circle. There is something else called opacity. Opacity, we can make it 0.5, we can make it 0.1. Look, we cannot see it. We can make it, the default value is 1. Let's create a view and give it some styling. Height of 100, width, and its background color. Let's make it gray. Now we can give it a border width of 5. We can give it a border top, right, or left radius of 20. As you see, we can make this border top, right, radius of 22. Look, we can create another view, but this time let's make his color pink. Let's give it a margin top of 20 to have some space here. Let's make this, let's remove border top and border right radius and make it at the bottom. Let's make it border bottom right radius or left radius of 20 and border bottom right radius of 20 as well. Let's change the opacity of this gray. Let's make it great, isn't it? In this lesson, we're gonna talk about position, absolute and relative in React Native. What if we want to put this blue view here or at the bottom here, at the bottom right here? We have something called position, property called position, absolute. And if we want to make it, we have some properties, and those are bottom and left and right and top. If I want to make it at the bottom, just add the bottom property with 0. Look, we have this box at the bottom here. What if I want to move it, for example, 100 pixels from the left? Just type left 100. So it moves 100 of the left. What if I want to put it at the top right? That's pretty simple. Just give him the top of 0 to be at the top and right of 0 too. So it became at the top, the right. What if I want to make some spaces, for example, 30 pixels here and 30 pixels here? Now we have some spaces here. So in position, we have bottom, left, right, and top to put our components wherever we want. So if you want to put any component of yours in any position that you want, just give him a position absolute and give him those property. You have to set his top and right, or left and bottom, top and left, and so on. Those 4 properties. Now that is the position absolute. We have a position called relative. How does this work? I'm gonna tell you. Let's do some refactoring to our code. First, to show you the difference between position absolute and position relative. Imagine that we have here 3 views, one red, one blue, one green. Okay? What if I give this red view position absolute? Look, the red view come at the top and covered the blue view because it's position absolute, so it leaves his spaces. I mean this spaces that was inside it. Look, this space, it leaves it, and the green view take his space. But if we want a position relative, okay, it's still in his place. And if we give him just top of 30 and left of 32, look, it has his spaces, and it moved 30 pixels from the top of his space and 30 pixels from the left of his space. In this lesson, we're going to learn 2 components are very important in React Native, and those are SafeView and ScrollView. Imagine that we have here a text called HeroDev. If we see here, we here can see that the HeroDev text at the top of Android device. But if we see here in iOS, the HeroDev text is at the top. That status bar or this notch is hiding it. How to solve this problem in iOS? We have a component called SafeAreaView. Let's import it from React Native, SafeAreaView, and let's replace our view with SafeAreaView and press save. When we press save, look what's happening. The HeroDev text in the save view now. Those notch is not affected it or hiding it, and we can see our text here. And that's SafeAreaView. It's for iOS to have this save view and make our content didn't touch this part, the iOS part. Our second component here called ScrollView. Imagine that we have multiple texts, for example, but let's first give him some font size of, for example, 60, or let's make it 100. Wow, that's very big. Imagine that we have multiple ones to fill the screen. Now we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 texts. But here we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We cannot see all of them. We just have just 7 of them. There is another 2, and here in Android we just have 3 of them. So how to make this view scrollable? I want to scroll down and scroll to the top. So we have another component called ScrollView. We have to import it from React Native, and we have to wrap our content with it. ScrollView. And let's press save. Now, with this scroll view, we can scroll to the down and to the top. Look here in iOS and here in Android. Look, great, isn't it? But if we look here, we will notice an ugly indicator at the right here. We want to hide it. So we have to make it to have show this, to add this property, show vertical scroll indicator, and to make it false. Now we cannot see it anymore. That's indicator at the right. And here in Android, we cannot see it. What if we want to style our content of this scroll view? We have a property called container styling. We can give it a background color of red. Look. We can, what if we want to leave some space at the bottom here? We can add some padding bottom here. Padding bottom, for example, 50. Now we have a 50 pixels at the down here. We can make it 200. Now we have a space of 200 pixels down here. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to add a background image to our app. If you see here, we have here Android and iOS apps. We want to add an image background to make this app more beautiful. Okay? Let's try to add this image back to GPG. First, we have to import it in our project. Let's create a folder called SRC. Inside this SRC folder, let's create another folder called Assets folder. Now let's import our image, this back to GPG, and add it here. Okay. Now let's use it here. There is a component in React Native called ImageBackground. We're gonna use it. Just don't forget to import it from React Native here. Let's wrap our code with this image background and let's give it a source. And this source will be require function. And we have to pass the path of this image. We have an easy way, but I want to teach you how to do it. We can copy relative path and just give him styling to fill all the screen. Felix of 1. Our app looks great, isn't it? Now let's show you how to get this path. There is a folder called SRC. Inside this folder called folder name assets. And in this folder called there's our file called back.gpg. Now we have here in app.tsx. We want to open SRC folder, so we have to add a dot here. Dot means add the same path. Okay, and let's get into SRC folder. Let's select it and slash. Let's select the assets folder and slash. Let's select our image. And we have to select the correct image with correct extension. If we put another extension like PNG, we have here an error. We have to select the correct extension. The easy way, you can copy relative path from here, but I want to teach you how to get this paths. We can also use an image background from URL, and I'm gonna show it to you. But I just want to make sure that you've learned how to use this required method. Let's try another example. Let's, for example, add an image here. Let's add this image called background to PNG. Let's add it here. And let's use it. This image in the same path of the app.tsx. So no need to open any folders. We just to have the name of the image here, background.png. Look, great, isn't it? Our images has been added. What if we have a folder here called images, and this image inside it, let's move it. We have here an error because now our compiler can't see an image background file inside the same root here. So it's been moved to images folder. So we have to open folder called images, and let's add our image name. Now it works. Let's try to add an image from URL. But before it, I want to inform you about a property. It's very important called polar radius. Polar radius. Those images background, we have to make it something like blurred because we don't need to make it affect the the other components, so we can make it plural. So let's give him plural radius of 5, for example. Look, our images has been blurred. Now let's try to import an image from URL. Let's use this URL. Let's use this image. Great, isn't it? Let's copy it. Copy this. All you need is to open another object and to add a URI property and to put your link here. That's the link we get from web. Wow, great, isn't it? That's the image background lesson. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and don't forget subscribe to get more lessons about this. Don't forget subscribe and to hit the like button, and wait me for another lessons about text input and styling and Flexbox. If you don't understand what does Felix mean, Felix 1, I just make it Felix 1 to fill all the screen. There's another lesson I'm gonna publish later about this Flexbox and how to use Flexbox, how to use justify content, align items, Felix of 1 or 2. We're gonna describe all of this later, so don't forget to subscribe. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to add custom fonts. Here in Android and iOS, there's a default font family that React Native supports. For example, Roboto is only in iOS, and there is also in Android, and there is also a veneer, and that's only works on iOS. We want to add our custom fonts, any fonts that we want, and make it work in Android and iOS. So let's go and pick a font. Let's type Google fonts, browse fonts. Let's type, for example, there is a Roboto, Robic. Let's select any font family that we wanna use. There is Lato here. Let's pick this Lato. Let's also pick Railway, Roboto Slab. Let's also pick this. Let's download this family. Just press in download family. Let's download this family too. Here in our download folder, there's our fonts we've downloaded. There's Lato and Roboto Slab. Let's export it and add it to our React Native project. That's our React Native project. Let's create a folder. Inside this folder, another folder called fonts, src fonts, and let's add those fonts to it. Let's add those fonts here. This is the Lato font, and that's the Roboto font. Let's add them. Great. Now we just need to link those fonts. How to link them? To link them, we need to add a file called React native.config.js to link those fonts. And inside this file, we're gonna just type module.exports equals to project. Let's add Android as an empty object and iOS as an empty object too. And that's the important step, and it's the assets. And in our assets, we just need to put the source of our fonts, and this source is .src fonts to link those fonts. If you want to get them from VS Code, just right click and just copy relative path. Look, src fonts. And we have to put this dot here to ensure that we have at the same root, okay, of React Native config and src. Now all what we need just to save and just to type that code in px react native assets and press enter. And if we see this message here linking to iOS and info linking to project Android, here now we have linked our fonts. Now let's make sure that we've linked it correctly. Just rerun the app yarn iOS and yarn Android. We've just are running our apps to test them. That's Android. Now let's test it on Android. That's the custom font. Let's use just pick the family name and give him font family. Font family is Lato Black. Great, isn't it? Let's pick another font family. Let's copy this text and add a new text with a new font family. Let's make this font family. Let's pick another font family called Robotus Lab Bold or Robotus Lab Extra Light. Rename and just put it here. Wow, great, isn't it? Let's try one more time. Let's pick this semi-bold Roboto font family. Wow, those custom fonts are great, aren't them? In React Native and in mobile development, sometimes we need to make our components pressable. For example, what if I want to press on this text and make something? Or this blue view, what if I want to make something when I want to press on it? In text, there is a property called onPress. So we can use it, for example, to make an alert pressed. So it works, alert pressed. But there are another component that doesn't have this property on press. What to do in this case? In this case, we're gonna learn our lesson today. We're gonna talk about touchable opacity and pressable. If we want to make any component pressable, we have to wrap it inside a pressable component. Let's import pressable from React Native and wrap that text inside the pressable. And in pressable, there's a property called onPress. Here we can add our functions. For example, to make alert, text was pressed. Let's try. Great, text was pressed. Let's try the pressable in this view. Pressable and wrap this view inside the pressable. Let's add onPress. Alert. Let's view was pressed. Let's try. Oh, great, it's working. View was pressed. There's another component called touchable opacity. We can use it if you want to make some opacity when we press on it. For example, let's show you. Let's replace this pressable with touchable opacity. If I want to mark a word, a multi-word with the same letters, you have to highlight it and press Command and D or Control and D if you are using Windows. I'm using Mac, so I'm gonna press Command and D and type touchable opacity. And don't forget to import it to make sure that you import it from React Native. Now let's try. Look what's happening. Let's remove this function to show you. Look. There is an opacity when we press on it. The text too, we can replace this pressable with touchable opacity to show you. And let's remove this function. Look, the press text, the text when I press on it, it just fade and show again. Let's remove our function and press. Yes, text was pressed. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to add loaders, how to create loaders in React Native. In React Native, there's a component called activity indicator. We just have to import it. Look, that's the loader in iOS, and that's the loader in Android. In Android, it's his color like green or something, but in iOS is gray. His color is gray. So let's try to make another one with a larger size. Let's copy this and give him size of large. There's a property called small and large. The default value is small. Now we have a larger one than this smaller one. We can add some or change his color. For example, let's add a small activity indicator with color blue or something. Look, we have another one, small, but his color is blue. Let's add another one, activity indicator, with size large and with color, for example, Dodger blue. We have another one here, larger than this blue one, in this Dodger blue color. You have to notice that activity indicators or loaders in Android are different to iOS. In this lesson, we're gonna create a custom button that we can press on it to make something. And this button has many properties like disable or loading. When we press on it to make loading until something is get done. So let's create this button component. First of all, we're gonna create a new file. Let's call it main button.tsx. And let's use this snippet rnfes to create a function component. It's a basic function component. Let's see what we have on the screen. Okay, let's add a touchable opacity to create this button clickable. And let's give him some styling. Style equals to styles dot count. Count is a shortcut for container. Count. We're gonna give it height and width 100%. Let's give him a border radius of 8 and background colors dot main color. Let's center the text, justify content, center, and align items, center. Great, isn't it? Let's style this text. Style equal styles dot button title text, or let's make it title text. Let's give it a font size of 16, and font weight, let's make it bold, and give him a color of white. Colors.white. Great, isn't it? Now this button, it doesn't make anything. So we have to use this property, onPress property. OnPress, let's get him a function, console.log, for example, pressed. Now when we click on this button, we can log pressed. But we want to make it a reusable component. So let's give onPress, let's put it here as a property. Okay? So if we go to app.tsx, when we press onPress, we're gonna fire this function, onPress function, fn. Look. And now let's give the name of it is a main button. We want to change it, to change his title, for example, title test or any title that we want. So let's give another property called title, and let's put it here. So we can change his title in the when we put it, when we render it. For example, save. Now we can change his title, and we can change what he does do, what he do. Now let's add a loader. So let's add a new property called loading, for example, and let's format this code using Control K and F. Oops. Command key and F, or Control key and F using VS Code. And let's make this conditional rendering. If it's loading, let's render an activity indicator. And if it's not, let's put it like this. Now, if we pass here a property called loading, equals true, look, there's an activity indicator, but we have to give him a color. Color equals to colors white. Look, now a button with a loader. We want to add a new property called disable. Disable. If this button is disabled, he doesn't do anything. Okay, how to do this? It's pretty simple. In this onPress function, we're gonna pass a function here, and let's give it onPress. Okay, and let's add disable equals to disable. If we disable this button, so let's remove this loading and add disable equals true. So this button is now disabled. Look, if we remove it, now it's working. But if we disable it, it doesn't work. It doesn't make anything because it is disabled. One last thing I wanna add in this component. I want, when he is disabled, I want to change the opacity of it. How to do this? It's pretty simple. You look at this styling of touchable opacity, just add an array to add a new style. And this style is gonna be opacity, or let's add, if it's disabled, let's add this styling, opacity of 1, no, let's make it 4 or 0.5. Now, when he is disabled, he's gonna be like this. But if it's not disabled, He's not gonna be like this, and we can click on it and make changes. Look. True. Now we cannot do anything with this button.
Now we want to create an add button. We need an add button here to add a new button. So let's create that component. Let's call it add button.tsx. Now let's use this snippet rnfes to create a functional component. We just made our imports and view, and it's like this. It's a snippet. You can install it using VS Code extensions. Just type React Native snippets. Yes, it's this tool. Just install it to be able to use those snippets. Okay, now let's add some colors. Let's go here and add a new folder called style to put our colors. Colors.ts. Colors.ts. I just want to use those colors. I just export an enum colors with those. Okay, black text main color, and give them those names. Okay, now let's come back to our add button. We just will import the colors. Import colors from style colors, and our component, it will be a touchable opacity, and inside it an image. Okay, we're gonna give this touchable opacity a style, some styling. We want to be a circle, and in this circle a plus icon. Okay, so let's give him this styling, styles.const. It's a shortcut for container. Cont will have position absolute. Button, I want to be at the button, so I will give him 50 because I want it to be in the button, at the button. Align self, I will make it in the center of screen, so I give him this property, align self in the center. Background color will be our main colors, colors.main color, and it's a black color. It's something blue color. Z index, I will give him 1 to be over the box. I will give him the height of 60 and width of 60. So I wanted a circle, so I will give him border radius 30. And finally, justify content center and align items center. Okay. So now I want the image, the plus icon. So I will make a folder called icons, and I will just drag and drop the image. Review this icon, plus icon, and I will put it in our icons folder. It's a plus image. Okay, so our image will be, our source is require we go to assets, icons, the name of it plus.png. okay, so let's save it. Now we need to just import this button in the main screen. So let's go to home and add this button. Oh my god. Look at it. We just want to give the image some styling. So style equals to styles dot image First of all, I want to be a white color. So colors, tint colors dot white. This tint color to change the color of the image. So the image was black, now it's white. Let's give him a height and width 45. Now great, isn't it? Now our button is ready, but we just need to add it a new property to it, and this property is on press. Oh. Okay, or just make it on add press. Okay, on add press. So if we go to home here, we can use the benefit of on press of touchable opacity. So let's test it on add press. Let's give him a test function. Let's log something like console.log button is working. Now let's open our Metro bundler and just look. When I click here, button is working. Now we have created our add button. We want, when we press on this add button, we want a model comes to up to this model has multiple forms, the name and the price and the author and the cover photo. We just want a model to come up to put or to enter our box data to be able to add a new book. We're gonna make this in the next lesson. I would like just to mention those icons. We need those icons. You can get your icons, or you can download them from GitHub, or I will gonna give you put a link in the description so you can download those icons. So we're gonna need them in our app. And thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Please don't forget to subscribe and to like this video.
In this lesson, we need to create a custom input to use it when we add a new POC. We need inputs to add a POC. Okay, in components folder, let's create a new component called main input.tsx, and let's create this functional component. Okay, now let's render it in our app to see what we are writing. Okay, let's import the view and let's put it in the center. Justify content center, and let's give a Felix of 1. Now let's style this text input. First of all, we need to have here a text input to be able to change the text. Oops, what's going on? Look, that's a text input. Okay, now let's give him some styling. Styles.container. Let's give him a height of 48 and border radius of 8 and width of 100%, and background colors dot light gray. let's justify the content to put it in the center and align items to the center. Oh no, let's not align items to center. Let's give it some margin button of 8. Great, isn't it? Now let's style the text input itself. Style equals to styles dot text input. And let's give him a padding of 5 and font size of 16, or maybe, yes, 16 is better. And margin horizontal, let's give him a 5. And finally its color, let's give him this color, 9p. Great, isn't it? That's our text input component that are we gonna use in this tutorial. But I wanna teach you something, how to control this text input, okay? Here in app, just create a state, const value and set value equals to use state. Let's give him an empty value. And here in text input, we want to make use of TypeScript and to add the properties to this text input. We just need to do this. Just need to do this to add those options and add it like this. Okay? And let's give him an interface called props. It's TypeScript. What I've done here. So if you are not familiar with this, don't worry. It's TypeScript, not something to React Native, or it's just TypeScript code. Okay. Now this options is a text input props. Okay, and let's add this like this. Now we can use the option objects and give those properties of text input. The value will be the value state, and on a change text, it's a function that take a text value and set the value on this text. Just use Command and K and F to format the code, or Control K and F to format the code. Now, our text input is controlled. If you want to see, if we log console.log the value, it will be what we've written here. If we write ggg log, now we can get this value, we can get this value to use it, sending to backend or whatever we want. After we've learned how to create button text inputs, how to style views and texts, it's time to implement now and create our screen. In this lesson, we're gonna build those screens: the login screen, sign up screen, home screen. Now let's start and work with those screens. But first, don't forget to download the assets file. We have here an avatar, a background image, some fonts to use it, some images, and social media icons. So don't forget to download that file from the link in the description below. Okay, and let's import this file. Let's create a file called src and add our assets file to that file. Okay, and let's create another folder called screens, and let's add a screen called login screen to tsx. Let's create a functional component. That's a basic functional component, and let's import it here in app.tsx. Let's remove this and remove this. Now we've rendered our login screen. First, let's add our image background, or let's style the container called styles.container. I wanna mention something. We can use a style sheet, this style sheet, inside of inline styling. For example, I can give him that container background color of red and Felix of 1. Look, I can copy those like this and put it here and just make a reference here to make it styles.container, and it will give me the same result. Okay, don't remove this red color and start working. Let's add our image background. Our image background take an image source. Source equals to, it will be required. Let's copy our image background source. You're gonna, here, that's here. Just copy it, copy relative path, and put it here. Great, isn't it? It doesn't appear because we didn't give it some styling yet. Style equals to styles.imageBackground. Let's add an image background styling, and those styling are gonna be, the height would be 100%. Okay, we will have some padding horizontal of 20 to make our center here of 20. Okay, let's remove that text. Let's remove that text, and let's add our image here. If we see that's this image, we want to put it here, and let's have a look on the iOS too. That's the iOS. It's great, isn't it? Now let's add the image. Now let's get the source of it. Its source we're gonna be require. We're gonna open the assets folder. Inside the assets folder, we're gonna open we want to render that image. Inside food folder, there is a file called food.png. So inside food food.png. Now we have here our image, but we have to give it some styling. Style. We can give it some height of 50, width of 90. Okay, if you notice that we have here some space because we give our image background padding horizontal of 20. Okay, let's make it its resize mode stretch. I want to make it here at the right, so we have to give it a position absolute and give his right of 20 and its top of 10, or let's make it 22. If we look here in Android, it looks perfect, but in iOS, we want to give it some spaces. So if we want to implement something in Android and it's different to iOS, we can use the platform module. We can import a platform from React Native, and let's go here. We want to make that top in Android only 20, but in iOS, let's make it 50. Let's have a look. Yes, 50 in iOS is good, but in Android is bad. So let's make this code. If platform.os equals to Android, just make it 20. Otherwise, make it 50. Now, if we look here, the both are perfect. In iOS, we've just we have 50 pixels of the top. In Android, we just have 20. Great, isn't it? Now let's add that text. Fatmori text. Let's copy it and create a text. Fatmori. Oh, we have here an error. Property text doesn't exist because we need to import it from React Native. Great, isn't it? Now we want to make that text inside here in that screen. So we have to center it using align items, center, to make it at the center of the screen. And I don't want to forget this. We here use inline objects to style that image. I want to use this style sheet. Just let's copy that code and add it styles dot, for example, food image. And let's go down here and type food image and copy our styles. There is no any difference. Something else, I want to format our code. If you want to format your code, just press Ctrl and A, select all of your code, and just press Command K and F or Ctrl K and F, and your code is gonna be formatted. Now let's add the styling to this text. Let's call it styles.title. Let's give it a font size of 40, a color of white, margin top, let's make it 60. If we have a look in the iOS, we want to give it some more at the bottom, so we can use the platform in this case too. We have type platform.os equals to, if it equals to Android, just leave them 60. But if otherwise, let's make it 110. Great, isn't it? Now we want to add a custom fonts. I've described before how to add custom fonts to React Native, and I'm gonna implement it right now. We have here inside our assets, there is a folder called fonts. We want to implement those fonts. We need just to add a file called React Native config.js, and inside that folder you need to export that module.exports project iOS an empty object, Android as empty object too, and here let's add our assets and add array of our assets. We need to copy the path of those fonts inside src folder, inside src folder we find a folder called assets. Inside assets folder we have a folder called fonts. And let's just type that code. npx react native asset. Okay, and press enter to link our fonts. I've described that. Oh, we have here an issue. Sorry, I faced some error. We have to make sure that the name of this, it's React Native like this, not React.native. Sorry for this mistake. Okay, let's make it and let's type that code, npx React Native asset, and let's press enter. Now our fonts are linked correctly. If we want to implement them, we need to rerun our apps, Yarn Android and Yarn iOS. If we rerun our apps, we're gonna implement our fonts. Now let's give them that Fatmori text, or let's add a font file called font family. Let's add that font file. Let's select it here. Great, that font, isn't it? Now, after we've done with the text and how to add custom fonts, if you have any issues in adding a custom fonts, I have a video in the description. You just have to go and check it, and you're gonna learn how to add custom fonts. Now, let's add our this white view. Let's add it. Let's create a view under this text, and let's give it some styling. For example, style equals to styles dot inputs container. Inputs container. Inside inputs container, let's give it our height of 450 and width of 100% and background color of white. Now we have it here. Let's add some border radius. Let's add some border radius. And to make their thing in the center, let's add justify content to center and align items to center. To center all of the inside of it. And let's give it some margin top here. Margin top, for example, 30. Let's have a look on the iOS. Great, in the iOS and in the Android. Now let's add our input inside this screen. Our inputs and buttons. Let's first start to create our button. Inside our src folder, let's add a new folder called components, and let's add a file called mybutton.tsx, and let's create our button here. If you want to learn more how to create buttons in React Native, I have created a video and uploaded, and its link in the description, how to create a button. And I recommend you to watch all the playlist before you go here, because I have described a lot of things, how to create many React components like buttons, texts, how to add custom fonts, and so on. Now let's create our button here. We have a view, or let's make a touchable opacity. Inside our touchable opacity, let's add a text, and let's give it a property called title. Let's import it here in the login screen. Let's close this and close this, and let's import our button here. Let's give him a title of login. Let's have some styling. Style equals to styles.container. Let's give him a height of 50 and width of 100%. Let's justify and align items to center. Let's give him a background color, that hex color, FF0036. Let's give it some border radius. Let's make it, for example, 30. 30, great, isn't it? Now let's go to this white container, white view, and give it some padding horizontal of 20, for example, to make it the button like this. Let's add some styling to that button text, button title, styles.title. Let's add his color, let's make it white. Oops. Font size of 20. And font family, let's choose any font that we want or that you want. That's our fonts. Let's select that. Great, isn't it? Now let's go and add our inputs. We need here to add some inputs. That's input, enter email, and enter password. So let's add those both inputs before our button, our login button. So let's create that component. My text input.tsx. Before we go, we need to handle that TypeScript. So let's create an interface, props. Let's add a title. Our title is a string. FC. I don't want you to get confused. It's just a TypeScript issues or TypeScript things that we have to do. Now let's create our input component, RNFES, to create a function component. And let's add it. Let's give that view a style of styles.container. Let's give him a height of 50, width of 100%. Let's adding some padding horizontal of 10. Now let's import that our text input. We didn't end it yet, but let's import it to see what's happening. Okay. Now let's import inside it a text input component. Let's give him a styling, styles.text, or let's make it input. And let's give him a width of 100% and a height of 50. Let's add his props. Or I don't want you to get you confused, but these props I'm using here to pass all the other props like text align or any secure text entry. Other props allow us to use our other props inside any screen or inside any component that we want. So let's leave it like this. Now here we can use a placeholder, and placeholder, and let's make it the text. We need to add here. We need to add here a border. Styles.border. Let's add some styling to that border. Let's make its width of 100%. Let's make background color of gray. Let's have a height of 1 and align self of center. Let's give our text input margin button of 20 to make it like this. Or let's have a look at our image. Let's make it, yes, I guess that's better. Let's have another text input for our password. If you look here, we can type here what we want and we can see it, but here it's the password, we can see it too. We don't want to see it, so we have to add a property called secure text entry. Let's add a property called secure text entry to make it like this. Now if you see, we can't see our what we've typed in this text input. Now it's time to add that text. Don't have an account yet. Let's add it here. And let's give him some styling. We want to make it go to the end. Align self, Felix end. We want to give him some margin right here. Let's make his color is black. Great, isn't it? Here in iOS and here in Android. Now it's the time to create our social media component. We're gonna create a social media component because we're gonna use it inside the login screen and the sign up screen. Okay, first let's give that text some margin button. Margin button of 20, for example, or let's make it 15. And now let's go to our components and create social media.tsx RNFES to create a functional component. And let's import it in the login screen. Here, inside this view, social media component. Now, first, we have to add our 3 images. Source is gonna be require. Let's go to assets folder, social media icons folder, and let's pick our images name. We have Facebook, Google, Twitter. Facebook.png. We have another image called Twitter and another image called Google. Oops, I think it's Google with a small letter. Now let's give them the three styles. Styles.image. Let's give it a height of, for example, 80 and width of 80. Or let's make it 50. 60. Yes? Let's give the Twitter and the Google the same styling. Let's give that view style, Felix, direction, row, styles.container, container, Felix direction of row, space between, width 100%, or let's make it space evenly. To make it like this, let's give our image borders or resize mode. Oops, I think that component should be inside the white view. Like this. Yes, like this. Let's remove that stretch. And let's give it align items to make it at the same center, at the same line, I guess. I think we should give them 40, but the Twitter icon, we should give it 60. That's the Twitter. Let's give it height of 60 and width of 60. أيوة يا مام. أيوة جايلك أهو. ماشي. You can use this technique to use inline object with style sheet styling at the same time. Just open an array and add your object of style inside that array. Let's add margin top of 15. Let's separate the Twitter icon. Let's make it Twitter icon and give them those styling. And let's make it styles.Twitter icon. Let's remove that array. Okay, that's it. Now let's add the or text we have here. An or text, let's add it in that social media. Or let's add it at the top here. Text. Or let's give him some styling. Styles.or text. Let's give him a font size of 20 and color of gray. Let's give him margin top of 20. Let's add to him a font family. Let's use, let's pick one, let's pick that one. Now, here in the Android and here in the iOS. Now we have done with oops, we forgot to give that text a font family. Let's add a font family to that. Don't have text. Let's open login screen. That text, yes. Let's add him font family. Let's pick someone. Let's use that. Not bad. Now we've done with our first screen here in Android and here in the iOS. Let's go and create the register screen. We have here an email and password and confirming the password and that button and those three icons. Now let's create in our screens, let's create sign up screen.tsx. Let's take a copy of login screen. Let's import it first in app.tsx. Let's take a copy of sign-in screen and make some changes. Yes, that's login screen. Let's copy it and go in sign up screen and let's change this login screen to sign up screen. Let's change it at the bottom too. Okay, let's change that login and make it sign up. Yes, let's remove that text, don't have account. And let's add a new password input and rename, make its placeholder confirm password. Great, isn't it? Now, if we have a look here at that image, yes, pretty good. If you didn't understand anything of what I have described in this lesson, you just go back and check the playlist of React Native UI components to how to create a button, an input, and images, how to handle view styling, and so on. And see you in other videos. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I have a lot of videos that are gonna be very useful for you if you want to learn React or React Native or Node.js or even JavaScript. And thanks for watching.